Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will talk about renting in Switzerland. If you have just moved to Switzerland and is hunting for your first flat here, this video is for you. I'm Maria, I've been living in Switzerland for 7 years. In that time, we have changed 4 flats, we rented from private landlords and from agencies, we terminated our lease on term and earlier, so we had to urgently look for a new flat or look for new tenants. And yes, we've made many renting mistakes, so you don't have to. This is the second part of my personal guide of renting in Switzerland. This one is for you if you are already in Switzerland and looking for your first long-term flat. If you are just planning to move to Switzerland, go and check the first part where I explain how to find your very first short-term place. And now let's get into the jungle of long-term rental in Switzerland. Switzerland is country of renters. More than 60% of all households live in rented housing. And in big cities like Basel and Geneva, it's over 80%. The rental market is tight with low vacancy rate, which makes flat hunting very competitive. Most flats, even those that are privately owned, are managed by agencies. And if you check the rating of those agencies, you will already understand that no one likes them. Where you can find flats. There are aggregators like Comparis, Immoscout, and HomeGate, and the listings are more or less the same, so you can use any of them. Facebook Marketplace and Anibis are other platforms where tenants are looking for new tenants to take over their lease. And in my opinion, those platforms offer a bit better places because people are moving and you can get better contract and better flat. And in these aggregators, usually agencies make the advertisement, and this can mean that those flats are already empty and they couldn't find anyone for that flat, meaning that this flat is not in the best condition or best price. But you can also find intersection of advertisement between Facebook Place and aggregators, because agencies also post the advertisement for flats that soon will be empty. On the advertisement place, either on the aggregator or in the Facebook or Anibis, you can find information about visits. Sometimes you can find such information as group visits, time and date and address for a group visit. In this case, you most likely don't even need to contact a person, although you can to double check. In other cases, people don't disclose their address, and to make a visit, you need to contact them. Of course, you can start visiting flats without having complete dossier or complete file, but it's better to have a complete file so that you can already apply for flats. Here is what you need. You need your residence permit, proof of your employment, 3 last salary payment certificates, and debt register extract. In some cases, also a motivation letter can help, but I think this works better with the private landlords than with the agencies. And if you are missing some documents, your chances of being accepted for a flat drop significantly because, as I mentioned, the market is tight. Many people apply for flats, and in the priority list, they have people with the solvent file. While if your file is not complete and you are still offered a flat, which is highly unlikely, in the best case scenario, this is either overpriced flat or in a bad condition, and in worst case scenario, this is a scam. But more on scam later. Also keep in mind that if the rent is more than 1/3 of your gross household income, most agencies will not even consider you. Because that's how it works. Most of the lease are terminated before, so the current tenant needs to find a new tenant to take over their lease. This means that the current tenant still has contract for the next few months or even 1 year, which means that he or she has to pay this lease for another year, so that agencies are not obliged to take anyone solvent for this flat. But this tenant can terminate the contract if they find a new solvent tenant. And by solvent tenant, agencies mean someone who has a complete file and can pay for the rent, meaning that their income is at least 3 times the rent of the apartment. Expect to have dozens of visits before you get your flat. When you go for the visit, you can always talk to either the current tenant or to the manager of the building, depending who is making the visits. In most cases, this is the current tenant. So you can ask them different questions about neighbors, etc. But keep in mind, if it's tenant's job to find someone for the apartment, they might be not very honest with you. Same applies to manager. But you can still get important information like whether there is a washing machine in the apartment or it's in the building, what is the schedule if it's in the building, and other questions that are relevant here. If you like the flat, you can submit your file either to a tenant if they accept, or better, directly to the agency. If you really like flat, go to the agency, submit your file, and maybe ask them if they can already confirm that your file is complete. This will not mean that you get the apartment because maybe they have many applicants and there are some higher in the priority list, but you can make sure that your file is complete. Because if your file is not complete, the agencies will throw away your file and will proceed with the next candidate. If you are selected, the agency will call you to inform. You can ask for a few days to decide, and usually they accept this. If you verbally accept the flat, the agency starts the process of making your contract. Before you sign your contract, you still can change your mind, but this will cost you from 150 to around 300 Swiss francs of cancellation fees. But to be honest, this is a small price to pay for a bad deal. If you don't accept a flat, this will cost you nothing. Maybe in some cantons they charge you, but in Canton Vaud this will cost you nothing, and they will contact next candidate to propose the contract. If you accept the flat, before signing the contract, read it completely. Like really, it can be in French, German, and you might not understand it, but luckily now with the ChatGPT and all the technologies, you can easily translate it to your language. Double check that the rent is something that was discussed. Your rent is usually the net rent and utilities. And utilities are hot water heating and maintenance. What's the duration of your lease? Normally it's 12 months that are automatically renewed, or this is the contract from today till some point. Usually it's 1st of April or 1st of September. And from those dates, contracts are automatically renewed for, I think, 4 months, every 4 months. Maybe you don't care now, but you will care about this when you want to move from this flat. And what is the notice period? Here it's usually 4 months. But on this later, in this or in the next video. Normally in the contract you have the price that was paid by previous tenant, and if your rent is really increased compared to what people paid before, this has to be justified. Either flat was renovated or price was adjusted to inflation, etc. If something is not clear in the contract, you can contact the agencies. If you feel that contract is really unfair, you can also contact the association of tenants called ASLOCA in my region. They can help you when you move in and with any other tenants issue that you might have during your rent. I will leave the link in the description below. Money, deposits, and paying your bills. Before you move in, but after you sign your contract, you need to pay the first month's rent and rental deposit. The rental deposit is usually 3 times the net rent, and it is used to cover any damage that you might cause to the apartment or property when you leave the flat. This deposit will be used to repair the damage, and once damage is covered, the remaining amount will be released to you. The fun fact that I'm proud about, we got all our rental deposits so far, but I know that for this flat we will not get it because a kid happened. And this rental deposit goes to the blocked bank account, which is on your name and name of the landlord. So don't transfer any money directly to the landlord, and if someone asks you to do this, most likely this is a scam. Especially if someone asks you to do it before any contract is signed. If you don't want to block thousands of francs, there's another option. Many agencies and private landlords also accept rental deposit insurance, and many insurance companies provide rental deposit insurance. In this case, you will pay yearly premiums to the insurance, and insurance will guarantee to your landlord that you will pay the any damage caused by you when you move out. But don't get me wrong, This insurance will not pay your damage. You or your personal responsibility insurance will pay it in the end, but this insurance guarantees to your landlord that the bills will be paid. When you get your keys, you also inspect the flat and fill out the checklist. There should be mentioned all the defects in the flat, even small spots or scratches should be there. It's quite difficult to get everything done during the handover visit, so you will have still 10 days to make your list of all the damages to make the list of all the defects in the apartment. And I suggest you to film all these damages and make pictures, and then to compile a letter with the descriptions and maybe some pictures and send it to the agency or to the landlord by email. Record a walkthrough video with a date that you can then use when you leave to showcase that some damage was already there. This can save you hundreds or thousands of francs in rental deposit when you move out. Moving out. Here you also have two options. You can ask your agency when is your next termination date, and I think you will be surprised when it is, because although the notice period is usually 4 months, but since your contract gets automatically renewed, your next termination date is not in 4 months. Sometimes it's in 6 months, 10 months, or even a year. Another and the most popular option is to find another tenant. For this, you tell your agency that you are planning to move. They will again give you the termination date. This means if you don't find a new tenant, you are still responsible for this flat till this date. The earliest they can accept a new tenant is in a month. So you can find a new tenant as shortly as next month. But keep in mind, before you find a solvent tenant who is willing to take over your lease and who signed the contract, you are still responsible for this flat. I will cover the whole how to hand over your lease process in the next video, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So let's summarize. Get your rental file ready. No file, no flat. If the deal is too good, if someone accepts you without complete file, and if someone asks you for a deposit, most likely this is a scam. Don't sign a lease for a bad flat unless you are desperate. Most likely you will need to find someone as desperate as you to take over your lease. Don't ask me how I know. And remember, you don't have to pay the deposit to your landlord's personal account. Thanks a lot for watching. More on the tenant replacement next time. Until then, take care and good luck with your Swiss flat hunting.